Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 1, Episode 4! We're still going! Of Losing Our Marbles, a talk for two. Today, someone who I don't actually get to talk too much with outside the streamosphere. So I'm interested to see how much we can learn about each other in the brief time we've prepared ahead. So let me now introduce our guest for this episode, AudeoVisual. Welcome to the show!
Hey, how's it going, gents?
It's going good. Glad to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. I know you don't have as much time today, but we'll try to keep that in mind as we go through our discussions. How's life? How's things? How are you?
In this 2020 environment, good as it can get, I guess, right?
It's been a heck of
here,
a year
I'm
so far.
healthy. Yeah, it's been a crazy one. But yeah, I feel good. I got big plans for the summer, so yeah,
Cool.
going
Just
good.
gonna slide you a little closer to me. There we go.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
All right.
Now we're
Well,
really close.
since we're on the topic of how things are, you, I believe, are my first non-American guest on the show. Is this
Ooh.
true, Mr. Canadian?
Yeah, originally from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada,
Nice.
and I reside in the plains of Alberta.
The
Well,
plains of
I'm
Alberta.
in, well, it's prairies out here, right? But I'm actually in the foothills, like towards the
Taiga,
side
I
of the
guess it
Rockies.
would be called, right? Since it's frozen.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of a taiga.
It's not frozen in the
Sometimes,
winter.
sometimes it is.
Yeah, sometimes it's frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cold in the winter, but it's not
Hmm.
like that all the time. It's
No, you guys.
like right now, it's
Yeah,
quite warm.
I
It's
wish
probably
I
like
wish I had
85
your weather
degrees.
right now. I'm sweating.
Yeah, it's perfect right now, actually. I was saying that last night. I was like, I wish it could just stay like this all year
Uh,
round.
well,
It's
that's
so ideal.
California, right? That's why so many people live
Yeah.
in California because it is like that all year round.
It's pretty hot there, but not, I guess it's not too hot, but
Yeah. Well,
like it hits the 100 a lot.
I guess we're gonna start off. This is not really the direction we're gonna go for the majority of the stream, but since you
Right.
are my first non-American guest, I am curious. You know,
Okay.
images and facades aside, as a outside of American person, what does it look like? What's it look like from the outside? Because I know what it looks like from the inside, and it looks like it's a mess. And I'm just wondering what what it looks like from the outside.
You're talking about the world on June 6, 2020?
Yes. What the world's doing
Yeah, I mean,
outside of America, and what the world's looking at as far as
you,
America.
it's spread. It goes way beyond America, It started Minneapolis first day and then spread to a few major cities, and now it's every city in the States, and it's every major city in Canada, it's every major city in the UK, everywhere. There's protests going everywhere right now. Everybody's got, your guys' back, it's it's obvious, like, the authoritarian government has been pretty brutal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we're, as a Canadian, like, we do our own thing, but at the same time we're heavily influenced by our southern neighbors, so
Right. Because you.
generally, like, monkey see monkey do. A lot of the things that you guys do we end up doing too. But it's pretty crazy, but I have a lot of hope that this is going to turn out for the better for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
you know um Kind of strange how we've all kind of forgot about coronavirus.
Well,
Kind of worried that's gonna,
I
like,
I don't think we
rear
forgot
its
about it,
ugly
but
head in
we'll be
two
reminded
weeks.
very soon, nonetheless. Yeah, about 2 weeks
Yeah,
from now.
yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of spreading, but unfortunately,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but maybe necessary,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
criminal justice reform
it's a
is it's a
long
perpetual
time
thing.
coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly, right.
as more
And
things are given rights, then you have to secure the equality of those things being given more rights, and
it's needed an overhaul for a
it's
very
a
long time,
it's
the
a messy
justice system
process.
and all
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah. Hopefully this works. It looks like the federal government's just no wanting no part of it.
well,
State governments are bad. Looks like they're behind it, but
hmm
hopefully that works out. We all, as we already know, state
yeah.
governments and federal governments are never really on the same page.
Well, as far as I can,
It's the same like that here. We have our own provincial government and our
right.
federal government as well, and they're always butting heads.
Yep.
We're never on the same page
And
about
that's
anything.
kind of part of the balance, right? Is
Yeah.
that middle ground usually ends up being for the better, but you have to preserve that middle ground. You can't let one side or the other get too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Well, let's not go any further down that rabbit hole, and let's.
Yeah, that's a deep. We could spend 5 hours talking about that. And I think everybody in the world is kind of right now.
Well, in a most non sequitur transition, is it safe to say you're a grinder? Can we call you a grinder in the Marvel community, either as streamer level or viewer level?
You can consider me a streamer grinder. Last season, I kind of took it mellow because my first Marbles streaming season, I went, I don't know, hard for a rookie for sure.
Yeah. It's hard for anyone.
Yeah, I guess. Well, there's some people out there. This is like, this is normal for them.
Yeah, but even like, LT, he's been going at it 6 seasons. This is the first time he got to top, so.
Yeah, I look up to that guy, man. He shows the dedication, and actually, like, I've totally restructured my plan on how to do it around LT and Niffer as well.
Yeah. Hey, if you see something that works,
Absolutely. It looks like so many people are going for it this season, and I'm kind of getting behind because my short stream last night had internet problems, but
and that's something
okay. That just means we go 12 today.
Yeah, that's something Pixel comments on a lot, though, and that's something you should probably keep in mind, too, is that we really call it like the season start jitters, right? So it always seems like everything's out of whack and like, oh my God, who are all these new people that are like crushing the top board with like 10,000 point leads? But that's just because they had a big event. And they're probably not even going to stream Marbles for the rest of the season, and you're going to pass them in a month by leaps and bounds, right?
That's what I meant when I was saying, I modeled it after LT and Niffer, and it's their consistency that ended up crushing everybody. Right. No one was even close.
Because you get that rolling day bonus
close, but not really. And he's super consistent too. So if the rolling day bonus.
That's the biggest.
Except for yesterday, I tilted only because I ended my stream earlier. I was gonna race too, but
yeah, you should always get one race. So always get one race a day to keep that bonus.
It's gonna come back to haunt me, I think. Actually, I got a question about the rolling day bonus. Sure. I don't think I 100% understand it.
Okay.
Do you have to stream consecutively for it to be active, or it's just every day that you stream it builds up, and if you take days off, it continues to grow? Or
my understanding, and I can't verify this, but at the top of the race, it always has the XP from the race, and then it has your bonus XP. And the bonus XP is from energy return tiers. It's from the number of people in the stream. It's if you have your bonus races bonus, and it also has your rolling day bonus. So the rolling day bonus gets bigger every day you stream a race, but you have to stream a race once every reset. So it's in between. So if you stream like once in the morning and once in the evening, and then you don't stream until the next evening, you might miss your rolling day bonus because you may have missed an entire rollover period, right?
Right. So if I take a day off, it resets kind of
I think it resets.
I was kind of unclear on that because it said the number continues to go up, right? It says 2 or 3, and then it continues to go up, but I'm not sure.
Which is something I'm hoping Pixel might look into changing. I think either keeping it static or just dropping it down by 1 would be healthier. Because
I personally think, the leaderboard XP could use a slight overhaul, not extreme, but I think there is a little bit of off balance to some of it for sure.
Yeah, just because if you're grinding for a whole season, the seasons are long. Like that's the biggest thing with the change last season is like a 2-month-long season. They've only done it once before, and they stopped doing it because it was too long. But now I think the community's so large, we can support a 2-month-long season. But the downside of that is anyone grinding for 2 months, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's taxing
and like
for
just
sure.
Missing that one day, like in the middle of the season, with 60 days in a row of streaming is crazy. There's people who stream a year consecutively, but just even 60 days consecutively is crazy. I know. I'm not even there. I have a schedule to stream every day, and I don't even stream every day. Sometimes I got to take a day off or do something different.
There's definitely sacrifices that come with it, that's for sure.
But I think losing your entire rolling day bonus for the season just because you took one day in the middle of the season, it's not the best strategy or the best format.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm glad
hopefully
I
they'll
missed
tweak that.
races early in the season so I can
Yeah.
catch back up.
Cool. Well, on those lines, then, speaking of improving and whatnot, um, from the streamer side of things, what do you think would be the best improvement to make to marbles as a game, or marbles even as a community?
Best improvement to make. Wow, that's a really tough question. It's not
I
something that
asked
I
some
think about a
doozies,
lot.
man. I asked some doozies.
Yeah.
We're just these are the warm up questions, so you better get ready.
Oh God. The best improvement to make. Wow. I think. Well, I don't know about the best. I think the map builder pass could use a lot more. It seems like
Mm,
every time I witness a map builder make something when they stream it, right? There's just like so many elements that would,
yeah.
in my eyes, it looks like it would be simple, but maybe it's not. I don't write programs. I don't know how to, I don't build anything in Unreal Engine. I don't know how it works, but
Hmm.
um there looks like just simple things like some lighting and stuff like that. And I guess the new shapes should really help map builders kind of
Yeah,
just get
it's
the look they desire, but yeah, it seems like there's always this little things. The map builder pass. I mean, that just I guess affects the aesthetic of the game.
hmm
Um, I think the energy, maybe not the energy system itself, just the whole grinder situation could use
yeah,
slight improvement. I
yeah.
mean,
There's gotta.
yeah,
That's the tricky balance, right? Is finding how do you keep people motivated to keep playing without encouraging them to not do anything else, right? Like while still having a life. Like how do you reward like 4 to 8 hours a day without further rewarding 16 hours a day, right? Like how do you create that
and the
cutoff?
thing is like the way it seems right now, it's so many people grinding. I think 8 hours a day is gonna not even keep you in the top 100 now.
It's hard to
I
tell.
think you
Hard
got
to
to
tell.
be like, yeah, I don't know. There's some. Seems like the top people are they don't sleep.
Hmm.
They don't sleep, and I've had some of them tell me they barely sleep.
Right, and
They get a
that's
few
kind of the
hours in
thing.
here, and they're committed to that for 2 months, and
Right.
that's I know that's why the energy system is in place, right? To be healthy or whatever.
Yep.
So you're not doing that much, but it didn't deter people from doing that. It just, made it harder for them.
Yeah, exactly. If you're really good at it, you can do it. Right. So
Yeah, there's still, yeah, but
that's the trick.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. I get why it's there, but I think it needs a slight overhaul personally. It's not great for the streamer too, where, on
Yeah.
my side, people don't like going past 35 and 55 often, and now with the meta becoming like grind and crank, that really has a viewer coming to your stream for like a couple hours, like 2, 3 hours
Right.
tops, and
Right.
then they're out of there, you know?
Hmm.
And yeah, it'd be nice to keep them to 80 and 110 and all that, because this season I'm doing that every day. I'm hitting those tiers every day,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're sticking around to 35, and thanks to the races, which I appreciate, they thank me
Yeah.
for my time and stuff, but I'd love them to stick around longer and
Yeah.
not have to leave because they're gonna get scuffed everywhere because they're 9 tabbing it.
I think in like probably a year's time, marbles is going to be significantly changed. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I
because
think it's gonna be
we hit like over 1.5 million players last season, so
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
viewer base is there, and I would like this. These are all my personal statements, even though I've had conversations with people behind the scenes. These are my personal comments. I would argue that we have reached a streamer saturation for the category. And I say it's unfortunate because most games, their saturation's around 100 streamers probably. I think our saturation is probably closer to 50 or even 30 active streamers. And I think that's because of one, the limitation to um, viewers. So racers can only have up to 1,000 active viewers, and tilters can only have 100 active viewers. And then also with the energy system, people can't watch that many streams at a time. And I understand with Twitch's changes, you don't want people watching all the streams all at one time because that is going to deter total viewership. So that's going to make the category suffer as a whole. So I don't think there's anything that can be changed about it, but I think it just inherently has a lower saturation rate than other games. And that's kind of something that needs to be taken into account. And with regards to that, I think the future is going to look a lot different because it's going to reach a stability point, and once it's at the stability point, I think Pixel's going to be a lot more comfortable implementing changes, because he'll put something in instead of the entire thing going up in smoke and everyone's crying and explaining themselves on Discord and everything. He'll put in a change and like a little thing will change because the community will be so stable and the game will be so stable. And he'll be like, oh, okay. And then he'll put in another change and like a little bit will change, right? So I think it's going to be a much different dynamic in the not too distant future for the game as a whole. So that's kind of the change I'm looking to see. I want to see the next upscale. Like, admittedly, as a tilter, and even if I went more into races like I started doing when I first started streaming marbles, your viewer cap is 1,000, which is not enough for a professional streamer, in my opinion. There's still people who have less than 1,000 active viewers that can make a living off of it. But in general, I would say that's not a good cap to have for a profession as a streamer. So I think changes are going to be made in those kinds of areas.
Yeah, opening up the caps probably be good to attract bigger streamers. I'm not, yeah, I don't know any really big streamers, so I don't know if that's like pushed them away from marbles or not.
All right.
I know marbles is really attractive to small streamers. It's really good. Probably one of the best categories out there to grow a community, right? Because it's a community-based game.
Exactly.
There's a few games out there. Jackbox is really good for that as well.
Yep.
But
yeah.
there's a couple of things. Just chatting in general is good for building a community as well. But
for sure.
Marbles is really attractive for that. I know because when I found Marbles, I fell in love with it as just a player, and then
go more into that because that was one of my questions. How did you start streaming marbles?
Okay. Well, let's go through a history of my marbles. I started streaming in general December of 2019, and I was doing poker and Fortnite a lot, and art streams, and I did some DJ streams. I'm a man of many hats, and so that's what got me into streaming. I was like, well, I do all these things, I can build communities in all these categories, and so anyways, I did that and stuff, and then poker streaming, the number one poker streamer of all time, Lex Veldhuis, I'm a big fan of his. Everybody knows poker is. And
I watched a couple.
He was doing marbles. It was New Year's Day, not a lot's going on. The city.
That's my marble-versary. So that was my 1-year marble-versary. Same day.
That's the first day I dropped a marble was on January 1st, 2020.
How about that?
Yeah, and I was blown away. He was doing it for a giveaway, but I was just like, what in the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
So literally after he stopped and he went back to playing hands and stuff and poker, I was like, I looked up the category, it's
right.
like marbles, and I found Nalu, which was the first stream I found.
Nalu's good company for sure.
I fell in love with her. I was there 3 days straight or something, just going, and then she mentioned something about Community Day, right? And then I went to Pixels for Community Day, and I fell in love with the whole community. It was over from there. I literally rolled marbles every day that season from there on out, and then the end of the season came, and I was like, yeah, I love this. Like, maybe I should stream this, right? I wasn't sure. I was still streaming my other things, right? And at first, the beginning of season 15, I was like, I'm gonna go for Grinder, right? And I had a good start. I was in the top 50 the first few days, and it was taxing though, and I was like, maybe this isn't for me. And so yeah, I was like, all right, let's give streaming it a try. And right away, I built a community as of day one, which I just had my 5-month anniversary of the other day.
Oh, nice!
2 days ago.
Happy anniversary!
I guess like 5 months is a weird one, but I didn't realize it. But it was like
people do it in relationships all the time, so
Yeah, I was just exactly. I was like, oh, it's an anniversary, sweet. I mean, I guess in a month from now is the
half year.
6 month is the real.
You'll have
real
to plan
one.
a big event
celebrating,
for that one.
right?
Yeah.
I'll actually do something for that one, but yeah. And then I built a community immediately, and I was just like, wow, this is where I belong. Like I felt like I was where I belong in the streaming world. Having a lot of fun. It's the funnest game to stream.
Oh yeah,
that's for sure. It's so chill, and I make so many friends, and just I just get to listen to tunes I like all day and shoot the shit. That's the real attraction to me for streaming is the chat, the
Nice.
interaction. It's so good. And so there's nothing like it in the world. There's nothing like this community. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like forums that I used to be on, but way better, like
Oh,
times a
back
thousand.
in the America Online Instant Messenger days, were you part of
Yeah.
those?
Well, I'm still on some forums that I've
Oh,
been on
dang.
for like 15 years. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
good.
still check in every now and then, some
Well,
poker
to kind
forums,
of
some like hockey
round out our
forums.
marbles conversation at this point, where do you see your stream going? Like, do you have a quote unquote end goal? I know it's not
End
good to have
goal.
an end goal, but like, do you have a
Yeah, I
spot you
mean,
want to reach, or?
I do. I do. I want to be partner. I've been striving for that since day one of streaming. I want to be partner. I want to do streaming for a living and, not have to worry about other means, to pay the bills would be really nice. Um, I'd love to be a big giveaway streamer, but I don't have the I don't have the money for it, right? So I
Right.
don't you don't see me do giveaways. I don't really make a lot off Twitch. Um, so I can't really afford to do all these big giveaways, but like a DNP3 type thing, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but my own way.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to be him. I don't want to be him. But I would love that level of like, just yeah, doing big giveaways and just having a lot of fun with the community.
Right. And that's
Really.
kind of just in
That's
the spirit that's in a lot of marble streamers. It's just that wanting to give back to the community because like
Oh
they're
yeah,
essentially giving
absolutely.
you success, and it's like, well,
Absolutely.
I literally would not have the success if I didn't have viewers, and it's like I I can't go to each of your houses and like bring you a cake, right? Like it's like yeah, you always have this like constant trauma in your mind, like how the fuck do I thank all of these fucking people, like without it just sounding meaningless and hokey, right?
Oh, I feel like that sometimes, and I get all this great support from these amazing people who don't even need to give me the support. Just them being there is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give me support on top of that, and it's just like I don't even know how to thank them. And it's so many of them do it. It probably just sounds like I'm a robot thanking them, but it's
It feels
so
like that way
sincerely from the heart.
sometimes.
I can't even explain how
Yeah.
it actually makes me feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that's for sure.
That's good. Well, any questions at this point that you'd like to start throwing my way? I feel like we've been going
Yeah.
into the
So so how did you find Twitch, and what brought you to streaming? Like
my
where?
my Twitch started more actually on YouTube. um,
Okay.
I've told this story a little bit before, but Grimlust, who's a very long time gaming friend of mine, did a lot of like Gary's Mod, Minecraft, and Rust kind of videos on YouTube. So I was helping him make those videos, and then I started getting into YouTube for myself. So I did like Hearthstone tutorials, things along those lines, and the Hearthstone got me more into streaming, and then I kind of hit a talk about saturation. Really, like the saturation for Hearthstone was there by the time I got there. So I knew I didn't have a chance going into it. But at that time, I wasn't trying to do anything professional. I was just trying to, have some fun and hang out with my friends. So I got to a point where I was like, I'm pretty much done with Hearthstone. I need to find a new game. And I just kind of did variety streaming for a while, floating around trying to find some stuff. And then I found this December 2018, so a year before you did. And was looking at the category, and like I've always loved like the high speed commentary, like the 1920s horse racing, and even like
By the way, you, I'm so impressed every time you do that.
and like Monty Python's Upper Class Twit of the Year. I think that's my greatest inspiration, really. But I saw a racing game where people in chat were the racers, which was like it's just gold. It's gold, right?
Right? Right?
And I was like watching the streamers, everyone's just like doing like karaoke or not paying attention to the game or whatever. And I was just like, why is no one like focusing on the racing that's happening? Like there's excitement right in front of you and you're not even paying attention to it. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. And it made a decent splash. It was kind of the opposite of you because you already have that successful marble streamer mentality. So that's something you were able, in my opinion, you just kind of slipped into, which is why you've had the success you've had so far. For me, mine was more Shen style of ramming into a brick wall until it breaks kind of thing. Because, a lot of grinders aren't usually have your tab muted or otherwise aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
So trying to focus on the race itself and having that be the excitement and the focus of the stream, it slows down the grind, so it's not good for grinders. And at that time, there wasn't a very strong social viewer base. There were social viewers there, but the social viewers there were literally there just to be social. So when I'm doing commentary during a race, they want to have a conversation, but I'm not paying attention to them. I'm paying attention to the race, right? And so it took a good 5 months just to really get people being like, oh, hey, this is actually kind of fun, and kind of build an audience for myself. And that's same thing with Pixel. Like, I didn't find Pixel until 5 months into the game, and Pixel didn't find me until 6 months that I was streaming it. So it was like there was a really long lag time between getting into marbles and when people actually started noticing, like, oh, this guy's doing something a little different, and it's actually kind of interesting. So that's kind of been my approach to marbles since the very get-go, is just that how many brick walls can I blast through Kool-Aid Man style, right?
Well, it worked. It worked. Your name is synonymous with the game. I mean, when I first entered, I learned about you right away, and I realized that you're one of the geniuses of the game. You've wrapped your head right around it, and yeah, you see it in a way no one else does. That's for sure. And yeah, I'm always impressed, like the tilting, the map building, all of that. You see it through Shen's eyes, and I'm envious, really.
You don't want these eyes, trust me. You don't want these eyes. Be happy with your own.
It's crazy. You said it took you 5 months to find Pixel, and for you guys to find each other. I guess I'm really blessed because as a viewer, I got to, just watching his streams. I saw him playing Fortnite, and I jumped in before I ever streamed. I was playing Fortnite with him, so nice. By the time I streamed, he already knew who I was. I was kind of lucky in that sense. A few people that maybe helped me grow in the community. Maybe it unknowingly, they probably didn't realize it, but just by being associated, helps you grow as well.
Those little seeds can make some very big trees, and people they're just casting them off as they go, not even realizing. So
even realizing, absolutely.
Sometimes it helps to just try to be a bit more aware of that. Just anyone as you are, always be in mind of the seeds you're planting along the way.
Twitch is beautiful like that with the raids. Raids can someone, just by ending your stream, you can change someone's life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can help them grow a whole new community, and you can literally change the way their stream goes down the road. I know, because it's happened to me. Yep. Right?
The month DMP
monster raids come in and just changes everything.
Yeah, the 1 month DMP3 raided me was the first month I broke multiple hundreds for a Twitch payout. So that was an exciting one.
Yeah.
And it really, changes like that can happen. You never know. So
absolutely. Yeah, I got a big one from Warwitch one time, it's like 480 or something like that. And then my community doubled overnight. Yeah. I went from averaging 10 to 15 marbles to averaging, 20 to 30 marbles daily after that. And kind of slipped. My numbers kind of went down because last season I streamed a lot, but not really, not to my level of what I want to bring. So it kind of went down, but yeah, we're back to nonstop. Essentially, we'll grow it back up. That's one thing I feel is broken about the XP leader is you can give it your all. You can stream literally 24 hours a day, and it's unless you find a base, you're not going to compete, right?
Yeah, that's like a good and bad thing, right?
It's kind of skewed, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it, right? Because then you don't want just the small streamers to get there easily. Of course, you want it to be hard for them, but I think it's a little too hard. Like there's
Yeah.
someone, the person who did the most races last year, did like way more than anybody else, even head snap, and they placed like I think fifth or sixth, which is really impressive. But
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like they gave the game all, their all, and they did more hours, more races than anybody else that season.
Mm-hmm.
They should have been one of the top three people in my opinion, right? But they weren't able to grow a community big enough to get that extra XP.
Right.
It's hard
And
to.
I think that might actually be a good thing because just doing a number of races, it's an incredible skill and incredible devotion.
Mhm.
But it's similar to just being the best at another game, right? So, like, you
Yeah,
could be the best Fortnite player in the world, but if you never talk and you're just deadpan into the camera for the whole stream,
it's
no one's
true.
really like some will watch, but most people
It's
aren't
true. I
gonna want to
think I
watch.
think that person in particular, they are talking. They're quite communicative and friendly and all that. They're
Mm-hmm.
not the typical grinders streamer with the camera and mic off. They're there every day,
Mm-hmm.
talking, interaction. I think I don't know why they had troubles, but um,
But
yeah,
I think that's actually one of the good things is building communities should be more rewarded than just grinding it out because
yeah,
it's impressive and it's incredible that someone would be able to do what they did and devote themselves the way they did. But
yeah,
is it healthy, right? Is it growing the community? Like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like grinding any leaderboard in this game is not healthy.
right. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
that's what it takes. And if you don't do it, someone else is gonna. So
Yeah.
like if you want to be there, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's just the meta,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So,
But yeah. And now Decender's streaming, making my life hard. He's streaming just like he plays, man.
that's
He's a savage.
him and Demon
He's
Speeder,
the
I think.
king. He's
Like
the king.
I wish Demon Speeder was more successful because I know he's had a lot of frustration lately.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I honestly I think Demon Speeder tries just as hard as Descender does.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a few other people up there too that they go very, very, very hard. And yeah. Descender's consistency though, right?
yeah,
Like he goes that hard
brutal,
every day. He
brutal,
puts up four to 5,000
brutal.
or points
It's just brutal.
every day.
It's brutal. It's
It's
and it's
crazy.
like that in any field, honestly. I know you're into a lot of different arts, and it's just like that too, right? Like
Yeah.
you give it your all for like 6 months building up concerts, and you've done like the same. You're like you've been refining a gig for like 6 months, and you have your final big
Yeah.
concert at the end. You're like, that was great, and then like the next day you go to someone else's concert, and they just like blow it out of the water on their first concert of the year, and like they only practiced it for like a month prior, and you're sitting there like, oh my god, right? It's just
That's how I feel about leaderboards. I go hard, The
yeah,
first 2 days I put in 23 and a half hours out of 48, right? That's like half of time, right? And DMP3, did 10 races and passed me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I'm like, cool.
yeah. It's
I
rough.
know, yeah. It is what it is. That's where I feel it's kind of broken. If DNP3 wanted, he could literally take first place overall in the streaming with like
Hmm.
1% of the races.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
But
it's a little
to
slightly skewed to that, but like it's not completely broken, I
all
don't
right,
think.
and
Just
like to
a
his
little
credit,
skewed the wrong way.
he's done a tremendous amount of community building.
Oh, he's
I
he's
don't
done so much for the community. I'm
right.
not I'm not
So like
knocking on that guy at
it's
all. I'm
hard
just saying
to
he was
balance
used as an
that.
example. He
Yeah.
was used as an example. I mean, there's tons of big streamers, like even Lex Veldhouse, the guy that got me into this game.
Mm-hmm.
He only does it for giveaways, so he's never on any kind of leaderboards, but
Mm-hmm.
he's always got 10,000 plus in his stream, so he
Yeah.
can always, he's getting 1,000 a race if he wants it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about that. He's a millionaire. He's whatever. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well, speaking of kind of these strange issues, so I try to get those questions that kind of unravel people a little bit. And I was in our brief talking together and watching you stream. I was actually watching you. I think I watched most of your stream. I think it was Thursday when we were waiting for the end of your stream to do the call. And the
Yeah, yeah.
question that came to mind that I thought would be a little interesting to hear your take on is how do you resolve conflicts in your life?
In my life?
Yeah.
You're not talking about on stream, just
No,
in my life.
just
Well,
conflicts in your
I
life.
am.
How do you go about resolving them generally?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I can put it into words. I'm very, very accepting. See, I try to look at everything from every side possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like people say I'm argumentative. Like I have a lot of people, they're like, you always love to argue, blah 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 blah, and it's not that. It's I try to see it from all the sides. So if someone's like pissed about something, I'm like, all right, now I try to put myself in the shoes, the counter shoes there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, I could see their logic, right? So
Yeah.
then I'll be like, I see your logic, but they also have this logic, and it always comes off as an argument to whoever I'm talking to. But that's just yeah, I feel like I try to balance everything out. So a lot of conflicts, I can find myself like finding a middle ground very, very easily just because I can look at things from other people's shoes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was raised that way or what. I was raised by a single mother,
Okay.
so yeah, she raised me really good in that sense to really respect a lot in the world and kind of like the world's not about you.
Yeah.
I was told that right
A
from the
single mom
beginning,
will
though.
teach you that real quick. Oh, you have
Yeah,
problems. Let me tell you
yeah,
something, sir.
exactly, right? Exactly. Just the world's not about you. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes things seem like they happen for a reason or they're meant to be. That's not necessarily the truth, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chaos definitely exists in the world and stuff like that. And everybody sees everything different. We all have different raisings and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So, I mean, conflicts, I always try to talk it out. I'm not a violent guy or anything like that. I rarely rage. I mean, I don't think there's one person in the Twitch universe that's ever seen me rage. It's very, 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 very rare.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I deal with conflicts by trying to hash it out and seeing their point of view. And unfortunately, sometimes I think their point of view is wrong, and I'll tell people why it's wrong, and that might lead to more. But I'll also explain myself,
Right.
right?
Right.
I try to use logic as much as possible, even though sometimes emotions can override logic.
That's kind of what
But
this talk show is all about. Honestly, is that way of being of identifying emotion and identifying logic and noting the difference between the two, and
yeah,
having the ability to analyze both the logic and the emotion to get to a more constructive conclusion other than just mutual destruction, right? Like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't wish like ill on anybody ever,
mm-hmm.
right? That's not something I ever, you know, I never want someone to suffer, right? Especially because of something I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll always try to like resolve stuff in a way where it's not gonna like someone's gonna get the shit end of the stick,
Yeah.
right? I don't want that ever. Um, yeah, I'm pretty chill. I think I think a lot of people already know I'm pretty chill and balanced. I actually got mad about something recently, and another streamer. I didn't get mad at them. I just got mad and was
Mm-hmm.
talking to them in Discord, and they were shocked. They were like, "I've never seen you like this." Well, I'm fucking mad. But yeah.
Anything you're
Anyways,
comfortable sharing,
I got
or you
over
just want to let
I
it
got
go?
over it right away. No, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like,
kind of mad at myself,
mm-hmm.
really, and that's what I said too. I just kept blaming myself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's my own stupid.
Yeah.
If I paid more attention, maybe that wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened.
And I think that's actually one of the things people underestimate, or rather devalue, is that human beings, evolutionarily speaking. Oh my goodness! Hello, cat. How you? Welcome.
Yeah, come
We
on.
have a guest.
Well, what happened to my hand?
Oh god. But evolutionarily speaking, humans have mirror neurons, and really no other animal has evolved them. Certainly not to the level that we have.
That we
So
know of. Yeah.
the whole point of the mirror neuron is to be able to look at the world through another perspective, right? There she
Yeah.
is. You're interrupting, madam.
Ooh.
Pardon you. Pardon you. We're gonna. Yeah. There we go. Okay.
She's got questions too.
But just that ability to know that there's more than one perspective in the world, and that there's
Yeah.
knowledge already accessed that you haven't accessed. So if
Yeah.
people know about Coco the gorilla, the one they taught sign language to, as intelligent as Coco would never say, "Do you know where my toy is?" Because they view the world through that solipsism. Like they are the only one that exists, and everyone else in the world is just a manifestation in their brain, right? So if they don't know where something is, nothing in the universe knows where that something is. So they would never
Right.
ask something else for information they don't have, because they would think, well, I don't know the answer, so how could anyone know the answer?
Yeah.
But human beings uniquely understand that that's not how the world operates. And in order to be successful or constructive in any argument or just any society in general, I think that kind of embrace of those mirror neurons is very important, because everyone has a different perspective on the world. So you're not going to be able to just all see everything the same way. That's just not possible.
Yeah, it's totally not. It's crazy actually the the how unique we can be um as far as, different experiences. Like you're the sum of all your experiences, right? Your life experiences. That's you. That's and just like a fingerprint, we all got different fingerprints. We also all have, different perspectives on everything, And you can even say we don't even physically see the same.
Right.
Like who's to say what I see as red is what you see as red?
I
You
love
always know
that.
that as red, and
I
I
love
always
that.
see that as red. But is that actually the same
Yeah.
thing,
I have a little
right?
joke
Like, are we actually
philosophy
seeing the
that
same thing?
we all have the same favorite color.
Wait, did I cut out?
No, you're good.
I can't hear you, Shens.
Uh-oh. Let me try again real quick. Hold on. Still good or no?
Did I drop internet?
No, I think it was me. Hold on a sec.
Uh-oh.
We better?
Hello? Yeah.
Testing?
Yeah,
Haha.
I
All right.
dropped out or something.
All
I
right.
hope it's not the internet problem I was warning you
No, no,
about.
no. I think it was on my end. But
All right. Were
it's
you
one of
able to hear
those.
me?
Yeah, it's one of those joke
Oh, okay.
philosophies I have. Is that I like to think we all have the same exact favorite color, but
Mm,
because we all see different colors for colors, we
yeah.
disagree on it. So like, I would say my favorite color is green, and you would say your favorite color is
Um, I would say ultimately blue, but
blue.
I mean
Right.
purple, blue, green. I mean, I'm a colorologist as an
Right.
artist for my whole life.
Goes a bit beyond
I
that.
it goes, yeah, I respect
Right.
all color, even browns, like,
Right.
and every shade of everything I really respect.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess ultimately blue. That's the one, my childhood favorite, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the one I kind of like. Hey, I guess that's my
I
favorite.
like to think like what I see as green and what you see as blue is the same thing, and we all like the same color, but because we each experience color
It's
differently, we disagree on what it is. Like I
it's
always think
quite
that'd be fun.
possible,
Yeah.
yeah. It's quite possible.
So
I love philosophy.
well, you're
It's
in the right
always
place, my
like
friend.
it makes you think.
You're in
Like
the right
what
place.
have you ever heard the simulation theory?
Oh yeah.
That we're all living in one of billion of simultaneous simulations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That every time I think of that, I'm like, wow. And you want to dismiss it as crazy, right? When you first hear it, you're like, "Yeah, cool, but that's crazy." But is it? Is it really
Yeah.
crazy? And there's a lot of top thinkers in the world that think that's more likely than, what we think is going on.
Yeah.
Then the accepted reason is going on.
Yeah.
So
Usually for me, the
pretty.
implications of those philosophies are greater than the philosophies themselves. Like, yes, the whole idea of this just being a simulation is crazy, but the implication of that, right? So, like pi, for instance, the relation of a circle's diameter to a circle's circumference is an
Yeah.
infinitely complex ratio. So, for a
Yeah.
computer to generate that as part of its physics engine would require an infinite number of computing power. So, yes, it could be a simulation, but that would mean outside of the simulation there exists a society with infinite computing power.
Well,
Like,
who's to say
that's even crazier, right?
who's to say that our level of current technology isn't like a speak and spell for,
Exactly.
something else, right?
Exactly.
Like it could be
Right.
this, our quantum computing could be like baby toys for something. We don't know.
Exactly.
You never know.
Exactly.
Or there could be nothing out there. there could be everything out there. I think it's so unlikely. There's definitely things out there. The
It's
universe
a
is
lot of
so
space
big.
for nothing, right?
Yeah, right. Like, and to think that organisms only developed here is crazy. It had to come from somewhere.
Hmm.
I don't think it just like came from the earth. And I'm sorry to all religious people. I'm not a big God believer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the biggest
it
argument
is
for
what it is.
creation is that there's no simple cell, right? And that's mostly because everything's hyper evolved. So simplicity, was evolutionarily pressured out long ago. But there's no
Yeah.
like four protein complex cell. Because how can you go from no cells to the most basic cell requiring 100 proteins, right? Like where's
Yeah.
that's a big jump to make instantaneously. So it's probably more
Yes.
likely that we were seeded by an asteroid or something that already had a
Yeah.
primitive bacteria on it or something like that.
Yeah. I think the newest theory is spores from a fungus, because spores, I
Right,
guess, can live through
right.
anything or whatever.
And then so
So
it could be that there are very simple cells that are only 4 or 10 proteins complex, but they existed on the planet that is now exploded, and one of the bits of that planet landed in this planet, right? So
yeah,
the
absolutely.
evidence for that gradual evolution of not life to life could be there, but not
Hmm.
on Earth because we might be a seed, right?
Yeah. So do you think humans are gonna kickstart Mars to become a planet? I know that's a goal, right? Dude, they wanna seed
If
it, they wanna
if we
kickstart it,
don't get
and they
out of
wanna get
this,
it.
I'll put it this way: if we don't get out of this solar system, we failed as a species.
Well, of course, the sun will implode
Yeah. So, like,
at some point. I
that's as
mean,
far as I'm concerned. Is like if we don't find a way out of the solar system, at some point, we'll have failed as a species. So Mars, I would
yeah,
say, is not even the beginning. Mars is just like, yeah, that's a given. That's like, yeah, we learn how to breathe oxygen. We learn how to colonize Mars. We'd master interstellar travel. Okay, now we can start the baby steps into actual existence, right? Like,
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if humans end up, you know, living in space on space stations only and no
hmm
planet.
well, if they want
because
to
we
travel,
because we
they're going to have
can't.
to.
Well, you know, I don't know if we'll ever find a way to break the speed of light. Maybe we will. Maybe we will, but I mean, theoretically, I still don't think it's possible theoretically.
Right,
Like in theory, yeah. There's no theories that have come up where it seems like, yeah, that's
right.
possible.
Which is
And
going
they've
to
pretty much
mean you're going to have
theorized a
to.
lot, but at the same time, you look through history and we always look stupid 100 years prior.
Yep,
So
yep,
no matter what, so 100 years from now, we're gonna look dumb.
yep,
And yeah, so maybe they figure that one out one day. I
yep.
I don't know. It's a tough one, right? Like no one's been even able to even start to wrap their head around how,
Yeah.
teleportation. You could sure say teleportation, but define
What
what
does that
that even
mean?
means. What is teleportation?
Yeah.
Like, there's we haven't wrapped our well, actually, we kind of wrapped our head around it. Like we can teleport information through the air, right?
That's the weird thing, right? Is information doesn't have a speed limit, but matter does. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So,
yeah. I actually had a question that related to this. Where was
ooh,
it? Where was it? Oh yeah. So like AI is growing and growing rapidly and stuff like that. And
hmm
you may have heard things like Neuralink,
yep,
which kind of like wanna Elon Musk wants to, you know, he wants to just make us Borgs, I guess. We're all just, this singularity. They're going for it. The
yeah,
top
yeah.
companies and minds, they're working on it.
hmm
So it's gonna happen, right?
It
Like
might.
so, and AI is growing all the time. It's multiplying in its ingenuity,
hmm
like all the time, and rapidly accelerating. So where do you see like a future, um, in say like 50 to 100 years? Uh, you think we're going to integrate with computers, and where Elon Musk's saying his end goal is to be able to like download your conscience into a different vessel and stuff like that? Like that's what they're
Right.
going for.
Yeah.
Where do you see a future like that? Like where do you see the future in
Well, I
100
know
years as far as technology goes?
based on interviews I've seen with Elon Musk, his primary focus, at least with Neuralink and stuff like that, is just the interfacing, right? So
Yeah.
like a keyboard and mouse is probably the most efficient interfacing we have for computers at the moment,
Hmm.
and it's not
Right.
very efficient. And the current technological push into portable devices is actually decreasing interface capacity, right? Because now you're
Hmm.
just texting with your thumbs or using voice commands, which, isn't that great. And they've tried different directions, like they tried eye focusing detection, and no one really went for that. So it's like, where do you make more efficient the interface? Because at some point, humans and society are going to be too intelligent for grade school, essentially, right? Our access to information and our volume of information is going to be too large to teach and utilize in the conventional ways that we have now. So there needs to be a stronger interface, and Neuralink might be one of the ways to do that. So which ones end up going to being successful, who knows?
Where does that leave us though when, all of a sudden you have the database of the internet in your head at a moment's notice? Like what does that make us, right? Like we essentially become gods at that point, do we not?
That would be one argument. It
Like
would,
all of a sudden we're all smarter than the most educated person on the planet currently.
mm-hmm,
You know,
yeah.
where does that
And
leave
that
society?
that plays into hive mind theory, right? So the
Hmm.
internet is kind of hive mindish at the moment. It's not, it hasn't worked out all of the inefficiencies out of its system, but like if you look at Wikipedia is the perfect example of a hive mind, right? There are people who are stronger at editing, people who are stronger at illustration, people who are stronger at researching, and each little person does their little part, and then you get an encyclopedia essentially that's greater than any one human being could ever create. So that would definitely accelerate in that kind of a situation where it would be much more hive mind in its construction. So then the question there is, can that be directed? Who or what would be directing it, right? And if it requires the current infrastructure that we think it requires, like energy and electricity and people's bodies still needing food and everything, how is that all sustained, right? So it could end up being a situation where a very small portion of individuals have control over all of those background necessities, which could be catastrophic. Or maybe it's something that gets integrated into the system itself and becomes very efficient and healthy. So all of that could be, there's a lot of directions it
Will
could
be
go,
had.
right?
If there's something to control, someone will try to control it.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
something like that, I could see companies, yeah, wanting to own assets, pretty much people,
Yeah,
in turn people,
that's
in
why
turn
they're researching
society.
it now, because the first one to get it gets all the rights to it, right?
Pretty much controls the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
So, well, I think we've gotten to a good point for the
Yeah,
midstream mix-up.
we there already? Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of control, kind of fittingly
Yeah.
enough, we have prepared, for those of you who don't know, Deathluck, bit of a poker guy. And I also, a bit of a poker
Did you
guy.
just call me Desla?
Oh, sorry. Did I say Deathluck? I
Totally did.
apologize. AudeoVisual. I was talking
Speaking of
Deathluck
Desla,
this
I got
morning.
a tournament with them in a week.
Yes. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
I have Deathluck's tournament with you on my screen, and I was speaking to Deathluck this morning, so I have a lot of Deathluck on the mind. I apologize. But
All good.
AudeoVisual, yes, bit of a poker buff. So we've prepared some
Absolutely.
clips that I'm going to temporarily cover his face with, because I have no other way of getting it on the screen right now. We're going to watch just a little bit, and then we'll pause, and we'll try to go back and forth as to what we think is going to happen or should happen in these moments. And we're featuring one of our favorites, Mr. Negreanu, a legend in the higher level poker tournament scene. So let's get that going, shall we?
And by the way,
Phil's got
Hopefully
8-9
you can hear
here.
it.
He raises. Daniel with a pair of sevens.
I just realized it's backwards for chat.
That's a re-raise.
I like the 3-bet. Daniel doesn't mind getting it in with 2 sevens here, but I don't see Phil folding 9 high either. He's way too likely to be live.
He calls in position. flop. It's King 8-7, a pair for Phil, but
All right, so there it is. Negreanu's got trip 7 flop, and Phil's got 8 flops. What do we think?
Well,
do we
for
think?
one, I think that hand went pretty standard pre-flop. Phil Ivey might be a little out of line defending with 9-8, but I think Daniel Negreanu essentially played pre-flop exactly like you're supposed to with the 3-bet. It was a light. I couldn't really see the numbers, but I'm assuming it was a light 3-bet, giving Ivy value to just call rather than fold or go over the top all in.
Yeah, it was all small potatoes up to that point.
It's not like an inducing 3-bet. It's just like call me, let's build this pot kind of 3-bet. And then he smoked the flop, right?
Yeah. As Negreanu is known to do, those trip
absolutely.
flops.
I think even with that flop as a poker player, and I smack trip 7s even in a heads-up situation, I will be aware that there's a handful of hands that Ivy can have that match my strength, right?
He could have 3
like
eights.
ace king. Well, he could have 3 8s. He could have 3 kings. But what's more likely is ace king suited, king queen suited, king jack suited.
Yep.
Now, of course, the king means nothing, but the suited does. And having top pair plus the flush draw will make him not go away. Right? There's nothing. If that's what he has, nothing's gonna make him go away. So in Negreanu's shoes, I wouldn't be too comfortable with being like, yes, this hand's mine. How much can I get? He's still got to be slightly cautious, but
sure.
At the same time, he knows that like 85 to 90% of the time he is, going to win. But so he's probably thinking on value. I didn't see how the rest of the
how
hand
would you
goes.
approach the next series?
So
of
what would I do?
Try to build the pot heavy, or would you just kind of limp it?
Do you know who's in position there? I wasn't really
I'm pretty
paying
sure.
attention to that.
Let me see.
Like
if I
who
can
was
get
the big
information
blind?
here. Phil or Daniel is on the blind, and
They're heads up, right? So they should both be on the blind.
oh yeah, sorry. So he's.
I just want to know who bets first.
Daniel
the big
bets
blind will bet
first.
first.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty sure Daniel bets first.
So open, like if I was in this scenario, I would want to open with 1/3 pot. That's gonna look like I'm trying to c-bet to just be like, all right, give me the hand, and that way it's gonna make. But at the same time, I don't want to give away free cards.
Right.
Right. I don't want my opponent to be like, oh, I got control now.
That would be my approach. Is I would make it expensive to see the turn, and then I would probably try to not let them see the river. That's probably how I would approach that.
I don't know if going expenses is the right play, right? Because there's just too likely that they fold. Right. If you go too expensive. That's why I say about 1/3 pot, maybe even as low as 1/4 pot. That way, if they even catch a piece, they'll definitely call. Even if they don't have a piece, even if they got ace high, it's a c-bet. C-bets are so standard. You 3-bet pre-flop, right? And then you continuation bet the flop. You're keeping the same story. So that's synonymous with a lot of bluffs, but it's also synonymous with like aces.
Right. Yeah.
So like, if you call a 3-bet pre and then they 3-bet like fairly light, like you're calling almost every time.
Oh, well, let's see what happens.
That's what I would do.
Let's see what happens.
a set for Daniel. Daniel
He checks. He
Yeah,
checks.
he's trying to trap them.
Still checks behind.
He
Both
checks.
playing it slow.
They
Stupid.
both
Playing
check.
it slow.
Not stupid.
They both check.
I know why Phil checks. Phil checks because he has value there. He's got a
Right,
showdown hand now. He's got a pair all of a sudden with his trash. So why would he want to bet for value when he's been 3-bet free, right?
Yeah.
So it's an easy check for Phil. Check is risky for Negreanu because diamond on the turn.
You're
really,
giving them a free card. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like they
it's
have to
not a
pay
great
for that card, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
You want like the ace 5 with the ace of diamonds to fold because you don't want to you don't want to see that.
all right, well, we'll let this play out, and then we'll move on to the next one. Sorry, it's backwards for you, but
The turn card is a 5, giving Phil a straight draw.
And now that Phil's got a legit draw, it makes it even less likely that he's going to fold.
Daniel bets.
so we bid about 3rd pot there.
Yeah, he's regretting not betting the flop.
Yeah.
right there. He's just
No
like, I
shots!
have to put
I
money
call.
in here.
And Daniel
Phil's
calls.
Now it's-
all in.
That's good.
He went all in.
This
He
could
went
be
all
ace.
in.
Thought
he was
Negreanu is
bluffing.
full
Oh,
of
no, you need a
shit.
6.
He
Never
thought he was
mind.
full of shit.
I didn't see that part.
He's gonna river 6, I know.
But I'm in
it's a
good
clip.
shape right now. I'm
Here
ahead.
comes 6.
Best shape of his life.
And Negreanu's sweating. He's just like,
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
I'm
Phil
actually.
needs a 6.
He actually has a chance.
So,
4 outs.
Don't
Do you
it to
think
us.
Phil thought Daniel was bluffing because of the slow
Absolutely.
play?
To do.
4 cards.
Definitely.
Ivy can
He
hit.
said, you're bluffing,
Something
I have a
tells me Team
piece.
Ivy's not
I'm just going to
exactly
put you
worried
off
where
the
the next
hand.
meal's
And
coming from.
even if you
It's
call,
okay,
I
he'll
can
be
still win.
fine.
Yeah.
Right?
So
He's in good hands.
when it's
Doesn't
that
look like
level,
their
there's
first
so many
rodeo.
layers of strategy. It's hard
You
to
don't
tell
wanna
I've
like
made,
that anyway.
what
made the
each one was
exact
doing.
same move in
Huh, you
Phil
don't care, right?
Ivy's
Just
scenario,
however it happens.
where I've just been like,
That
yeah,
was good.
hair in a gutter, you're full of
He
shit.
doesn't wanna
I'm
win
putting
that
it in.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And
we got.
it's worked out for me and not worked out.
Yeah. It's once you're up at that tier, it's really hard to say what strategies we're actually going because there's multiple strategies at different layers all the time, and just trying to
Absolutely.
dig through all that is a complete mess.
Yeah.
But all right, let's watch one more and see how that goes.
Queen 7 suited for Daniel. He raises to 1200.
Oh, I know this
You
guy.
might get comfortable with a 2-to-1 chip lead against certain players. Dario is
All right, so
certainly
it's
not
Queen
one
7
of them.
suited, King 6
Mary
off.
with King 6 calls. Dario pairs his
Woo!
6 on the flop. Daniel
Two
with
pair.
a flush draw. Minieri bets 1200.
King 6. Yeah, that guy's really aggressive
And
player
Negreanu
too.
calls.
Yeah.
So that's
He wasted no time on the
Daniel's
bet.
gonna call- yeah, Daniel's just gonna snap call him because he's an aggressive player.
Yeah.
He knows that.
So at this point, it's kind of just ramping up. They've been going back and forth a couple of hands in a row here, so this is
Yeah.
kind of a tempo run at the moment. But
So now it's flush draw and straight draw for Negreanu. So he
Yep.
does not want to fold at
Yeah.
all.
So if you were Minieri, what would your approach be to try to shake off? Because Negreanu's not letting go. So do you try to take advantage of that and risk getting burned, or do you just kind of keep it low
Me
and ride it out?
I'm gonna go into check fold mode myself.
Okay.
But him, that guy will take that hand to the grave. He's really, really aggressive. He's the type he'll open, and if Daniel 3-bets, he'll 4-bet it. That guy's
Right.
crazy. I don't know this particular hand, but
All right. Well, let's see how it goes towards the river.
Yeah.
Adds an open-ended straight draw on the turn.
There are
Big
about
card for
50-50
him.
odds.
I have no idea what to do with this hand. Absolutely not. So I'm just going to close my eyes and call. It's Dario. You
Daniel
never
just
call
calls?
to do against
He's
this
just
guy.
following through. Yeah.
Seriously. Just close your
Yeah.
eyes and call.
After Dario bet 2400, Negreanu calls the rag on the river.
All right,
no
there it
help
is.
to Daniel.
So Negreanu's got nothing. Minieri's got it, and Minieri's
So-
leading the bet. So what could Negreanu do at this point?
raise.
Just
Raise.
go
Either
for it.
give up on the hand and say he's got 2 pairs, or really dig deep and try to put him on a hand. And what kind of hand would he have? Either he has a 6 or a 5, or he's got some kind of pocket pair, or he's got nothing, right? So Negreanu's got to really dig, and he's the best at this too. He's
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
at just digging and really putting the guy on what he's got.
So
So yeah,
would you try more an all in, or would you just kind of double pot?
it depends on how important that pot is over the whole spectrum of
Okay.
are they playing a tournament or a cash game? If it's tournament heads up scenario, that pot is probably more important, right? So if you got to tell yourself now, do I have to win this? Is it going to make the stack ratios where I'm pretty much in shove or fold mode, or if I fold we can just it's casual. So if it's a do or die mode, he's got to win that pot. He's got to raise on, because he's aggressive player. He's going to be going for value. He knows that he's got an image where he'd be doing that with king high. So,
All right. Well, let's see how it
If-
plays out.
yeah.
Dario checks.
Check
He doesn't
from the
like
winner.
that Daniels called him not only on the flop, but on the turn.
Daniel bets 4200.
Small
I
bet.
see that. I think you have a 9.
So
Yeah,
he's
it was
limping
bad
him
play.
along
You know you have
basically,
the best hand, but you don't want to raise. I thought.
and he folds to
Dario
a small
folds
bet.
after
Oh
all
wow,
that.
wow.
Isn't that crazy? He bet
Yeah,
less
that
than
is
half
crazy,
the
especially
pot.
that player.
He bet
That
less
player
than
is
half
more likely
the
to
pot.
raise.
I think what happened there is Minieri was probably expecting a bluff from Negreanu. So Negreanu went smaller than a bluff. And it looked like he was
Yeah.
trying to lead it like
Probably
like he had a hand
exactly.
and he just wanted to add a little more to the pot to win it, right?
Also, Negreanu's Hollywood, where he turned and he covered his face like that definitely plays into that hand, right? Like
Right.
that cinematic there of him doing that, really it's gonna get into his opponent's head and be like, wait, why did he do that, right?
Right.
Because like in
Right.
poker, all your physical actions have a reason, whether
Yeah.
you intentionally did them or it's your natural reaction, like your tell, right?
Yep.
So he's gonna, well, I don't know about him. I would be thinking when he did that, I'd be like, wow, like why is he doing that? What is he afraid of? You know, like either he's afraid, like he doesn't want to see it, or he wants me to think he's afraid. Like why is he doing that? So maybe Dario puts him on jacks or something, or tens, or
I think
I mean
also
maybe a five, but it's unlucky. Like if
Also
there was
because he
betting
did it-
pre-flop, he can have like eights or something.
yeah, he also did it on the turn and not the river. So it made it
Yeah.
look like maybe he had a good hand to start, and then as the board was getting complex, he was making it look like he was worried that someone might get a straight or a flush. So
Exactly,
he was kind of
exactly, 'cause there were
acting
so
like
many
he had
more
a
outs.
starting good hand that got worse as the
Yeah.
hand unfolded, right?
Yeah, I really think that Hollywood there really led to the fold in the end.
Could be, but
You know?
I just love watching that stuff play out, because especially Negreanu, because he's so good, and that's kind of how
He's so good,
my
yeah.
style when I do tournaments and stuff is I always go for that kind of outlandish, getting in on everybody kind of thing, you know,
Yeah,
chatting them up.
doesn't
and-
work online.
Yeah, it doesn't work online for sure, but
I know. I do that stuff too. I'm really into the fake Hollywoods and stuff like that, and like fake tells, and you know, in live games. Oh, I dealt poker for 5 years in a casino, so I know how people react to this
yeah,
stuff,
some
and I
and
know
some of the
which
best poker
tells
players are dealers. Like that's how they get started.
Yep.
Is they just have this huge resource, this database that's in front of them every day, and they just absorb it and absorb it and absorb it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I played a lot of poker before I ever got into dealing. It's kind of why I needed a day job, because I'm an artist, and it's just things were not going the greatest. There was the depression or recession or whatever. So
Yeah.
I did that, and because it was like, yeah, well, I've been doing this 10 years anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then I learned so much more on top of what I already do, for sure, especially about live play, you know. And we did, my particular casino did most of the big tournaments in the region, so
Well, good
I
stuff.
got to see a lot of big name professionals and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
learn from them too, right? And
Yeah.
I've played it against some of those big names in tournaments live as well. You know, I'm not rich to buy into the 5K buy-ins and stuff, but I've definitely satellited in for a couple $100.
Yeah, the tournaments I was able to do, it was like a $25 entry fee for the first one in the morning, and then if you were top 10 in that tournament, you got satellited into the big one for the afternoon. So I was doing a bunch of that, and usually it was me, Wild Bill, who was the old timer, and this new guy, or young guy I should say. He wasn't new, he was young, and all he did is he had his music in, he never looked at anyone, he just looked at the table and just went through the motions week after week after
Great
week.
players, there's a lot of those people.
And he
yeah.
and he crushed it. The one I will always remember, the one he got me. There was a flop. We bet back and forth. We had the turn. He checked. I checked, and then on the river, he bet like he was either bluffing or he made his hand, and the hand that it looked like he made was maybe like two pair or something low, but what he actually had was a pair of jacks, and the turn was a jack. So he checked when he made his hand and then bet like he made his hand the card after, and I completely
all
fell
the
for it.
time.
I completely fell
do
for
that
it,
all
and
the
I will
time.
I will always remember that for the rest of my life. It was like the
I think-
best lesson I ever learned in poker.
I think every pro does that. When you smash it, you check.
was-
Like, why bet them off when you can't be beat?
It was
right?
so good. It was so good. So that's one of
Yeah.
those things where like that's always going to stick with me, and always being on the lookout for stuff like that. So I definitely get the idea of like watching pros and just being like, wow, that was good. All right. Well, I think that was a great midstream mix-up. Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
fun.
fantastic. Getting some expert commentary on the game. Moving into the second half of the stream, and we're probably going to go for another half hour or so, out of respect for your time. So if you wanted to take the lead here, I was kind of hoping to get more into the arts and things like that, but I'll leave that to your discretion as to how you want to go into the second half.
I had some pre-questions. I don't know if they're. Do you have a background in art?
Yes, I've been singing since I was 3. So
singing.
Yes, that was
nice.
That was my first
what's your
artistic endeavor.
What's your go-to genre?
For singing, for me, I am very much into choral works. So I like
Okay.
requiems, I like symphonies, I like big choir stuff. So
Nice.
those are always good. I think Brahms' Requiem might be my favorite choral work, because that thing is just too fun. Most requiems are really good. Soiree and Duraflé, even Mozart. He's got a good requiem. I don't like Mozart, but he's got a good requiem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So usually
You don't like
requiems,
Mozart,
honestly.
really?
I don't like
Mozart's
Mozart.
really great.
He's too perfect.
He's got some really good pieces from some of his symphonies there.
Yeah, I'm not saying like it isn't brilliant, it isn't amazing. It's just I don't like the perfection of it. I like Beethoven more because it has that more raw, flawed human aspect to it.
Yeah,
Like, wow, that really hit weird. Instead of, oh yeah, of course that's the chord that comes next because that's the next chord that fits perfectly.
Because it's mathematically
Like,
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just like right. It gets a little for me. It just gets a little boring because it's always perfect. Where Beethoven has a bit more of that, like, oh wow, he had an entire symphony in minor, and now the last movement of the last section is in major for some reason. And then but he doesn't end in major. He loops all the way back to the very beginning and starts going back into the minor. Like it's like what in the heck is like it doesn't make any sense, but he makes it work, and that's kind of what I like a bit more in music.
Nice.
So
do you listen to like any like modern like pop musics or anything? Like maybe not pop, but
I've been listening through on Billie Eilish's selections so far. Like when she first started getting big 2 years ago, I just kind of like I actually watched more of her interviews than I did listen to her music, because she really strikes me as kind of like a David Bowie for that generation, like that person who's an outsider only in the aspects of modern media, but actually resonates with more people of her generation than anyone else does.
I think Tyler the Creator's like that a lot too. He's totally like an oddball, and I'm not a big fan of his music, but like he's definitely like got that style and that just like the world doesn't understand him, but at the same time, his generation, he's a god. Yeah. You know,
like I'm kind of in the same boat as you there. Like I've tried to get into Tyler the Creator, and musically I'm not there.
I'm not into it, but
he's not going away. Music, so it's like, you know.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not knocking him. Whatever he's doing, it's working. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all musics, even though like there's a lot I don't enjoy, but I still respect the craft and the creativity. Mind you, there's a lot of music out there that lacks any creativity, and it's just a formula. And I think that's what happened to rock music. Like I used to be really into rock. I love older rock, and I think some point in the late 80s and early 90s it kind of creativity died, and it just became a formula. And there's been a few artists that have broken out of it, but
it became commercial.
It killed the genre. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I think actually I don't know what happened to hip hop. I like older hip hop and stuff. Modern hip hop is I don't even know what they're doing now.
I'll always be a Ludacris fan. I'll always be.
Oh, Ludacris is awesome, and that was kind of like the end of the greatness. You know, it used to be about lyricism and skill and actual thoughts and messages, and now it's just kind of like, look at me, you know, and it's I don't get it, right? And I don't know, the kids love it. Maybe I'm just old. I mean, when I was young, I loved all this, you know, stuff, and old people were like, it's crap, it's noise, it's not music. But of course it's music. Of course it's music. It's mathematically timed. It's totally music, whether you like it or not. I would never call someone producing sounds in a structure like that not music. Of course it's music. It's just not my type of music. I still respect that they're trying something, especially if they're doing something creative. It kind of led me to electronic music, because I feel like that's where the creative stuff's going down these days.
Hip hop, I'm not really. I don't object in the music category as well, but some rap really tends to be more like slam poetry than it does to be actual music. Like it's kind of on in that boundary gray area between
it's about the
poetry
lyricism,
and
right?
music, right?
Yeah,
So
there's some actually really
that
good.
that one for me is more like a
that
case
you
by
rap
case
to.
basis.
Yeah, you should check out a guy called Sage Francis if you're into
Sage
poetry and
Francis.
stuff.
I'll have to
Yeah,
take a look.
he's actual like a known slam poetry guy who also does rap stuff, and he's really, 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 really good at it.
Cool.
But yeah, he was never famous.
Yeah, but going back to the pop music comment is like the one thing I appreciate about Billie Eilish is that she's actually bringing back complex harmonies to pop music,
nice.
right? Like so much pop music now is either strictly melodic or it's a major third, right? Like there's no harmony, at least no creative harmony in most music because it's just a single singer and backtracking, right? So the one thing I do really appreciate with Billie Eilish's music is that she's really bringing in back those vocal harmony aspects, and it comes and goes as it's fashionable and not fashionable, but I do appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Now I wonder in going back to earlier when we were talking about like AI integration and stuff like that. In a world 50 years from now, if we're all tapped into this internet in one hive mind or whatever, does music exist? Do we have the creativity if we're all thinking the same thing? Is creativity die?
I think creativity becomes a less individuated situation, right? So there's a friend who I made a podcast with a couple of years ago who is a psychedelic artist, kind of like those Alex Gray paintings that always have the psychedelic stuff. So he does a lot of stuff like that, and he and I did a couple episodes of a podcast together. And his philosophy was kind of like that's the peak creative, right? When you could digitally generate a universe and just have people in the universe just making whatever they want, right? They're making cathedrals, they're painting murals, they're building architecture for entire city. Like their resources are not an issue because it's all digital, and you're just manufacturing your creativity, and anyone can integrate with anyone, right? But in that hive mind field, it's not going to be as individuated. So you'd have to start making like pods or something, like where you have a group of people that kind of portion off themselves from the hive mind, and they're kind of like the filter, right? So there's the art world, there's the people in the pod, and then there's the hive mind. So the hive mind's still getting information into the artistic process, but through the filter of that pod that's like in charge of creating it, right? Just like an ant colony. Not every ant is working in the nursery, but the whole colony is keeping the nursery going, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
So
I just feel like if we do end up in a singularity situation, that like every individual is transparent at that moment, and that means like your thoughts are everybody's thoughts, and I just don't see where creativity can come from.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it'll be a different way of existing
because we'll all just see everything the same all of a sudden. I don't know. It's scary. It's scary and intriguing, and I'm surprised these guys are going hard for it. That's like goals for the people with the brains and the money.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing too. There's a lot of people always like to say that silly quote of like it was in Jurassic Park, but I don't think Jurassic Park was the first one to say it, where they're talking about science is so busy if they could rather than if they should. But the honesty of it is you don't know if you should until you do it, right? Because
of course
existence is infinitely complex. So putting something that hasn't been in existence into existence is going to change everything in that infinitely complex system. So you can't simulate whether you should or not until it happens, because you don't know how it's going to interact on that infinitely complex level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's hard to speculate what something will and won't do as far as culture change goes, because it's infinitely complex.
Yeah, I mean, we made atomic weapons and we're still here, so I guess it's possible it could work out. That's one of the things, like, should they have actually made that? Like, did we need atomic weapons? But hey, we managed to get somewhat semi-clean energy out of it. You know, they like to call it clean energy, but I mean, yeah,
We're getting there. We're getting there.
side effects to that, right?
Yeah. And
But
as far as entropy goes,
cool, I guess.
any harvesting of energy is going to require a loss of energy, either heat or whatever, in some direction. So there's never going to be a perfectly clean energy, but there can be much cleaner energies.
Yeah, well, I think there's a finite amount of energy, and you just use it and then dispose of it. But like, it's always there. It doesn't die. It just goes on to the next thing. Like, you know, say your body has the energy, and you die, you go into the ground. Your energy goes into something else.
Right.
And that's the circle of life, right?
One energy body to another.
Yeah, I mean, we're all connected. We all got the same molecules. It's actually crazy. Is like, we're made up of like all the molecules, you know, like they say we're stardust, and pretty much everything that we've discovered out there is right here as well. Yeah. I think there's totally undiscovered elements out there, and they can't detect them because they don't know what it is, you know, like,
yeah, well, that's the issue.
They're just not showing up on their, you know, on their instruments because it doesn't exist here. And
yeah, well, that's one of the issues, is that a lot of mathematical models suggest particles that are either antimatter or like negative matter, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's ones that cancel out our matter, and there's others that never interact with our matter. And with stuff like that, you can't measure it conventionally. You can't use something of our matter to measure something that either cancels it out or can't interact with it.
Well, yeah, you can't measure something that you don't know exists. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not.
That's always one of the challenges.
I'm convinced that, you know, maybe outside of our galaxy, there's maybe even within our galaxy, but I mean, apparently there's billions of galaxies out there, and they're all colliding and crazy stuff, and that's crazy to think about, right? Billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and then billions of galaxies. It's so infinite.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Right? It makes us so small.
And even going back to like whether or not there's creation and stuff like that, like I even find arguments like that neither support nor negate a creation idea, because the reason you would need a universe so big is because of things that happen in the universe, right? Like every night you could observe a supernova somewhere in the sky. So if the universe was smaller, like the Earth would have been obliterated a long time ago by one of those supernovas. Like it's a good thing that the universe is so big, so that planets and life on those planets have time to evolve without getting annihilated by a supernova. So it's always interesting to have stuff like that going on.
I guess they say the universe is expanding endlessly, and it's actually going to get to the point where we're so far away from each other that it's just it's not going to work or something. I don't know. I'm not an astronomer. I just hear them talk on shows and stuff like that, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, obviously. Yep. Everybody watches Neil deGrasse Tyson,
and that's a good
He's
thing.
awesome, though.
You know, that's what it takes, especially when we're talking about hive minds and things like that. Is you have to have those individuals who can bring those attention to the masses in a engaging way, and not just be like, "Here's the data," right? Like that doesn't work.
No, he's quite the charmer. He's good. He's the good bridge between the knowledge and the, you know, getting the point across to the layman.
Yep.
Even though, sometimes he just like talks like you're supposed to know what this quantum physics stuff is, and you're just like, okay, like it's obvious, right? It's like, well, it's obvious to you, man.
Well, so I had a question that kind of plays off of the idea of you contemplating about what the hive mind means for individuality. From the opposite end of that, do you fear being labeled, and kind like that same idea of having your individuality nullified? Like, are you afraid of labels? Do you try to break
I don't know about
boxes or
what do you mean? Like, give me an example of a label.
Just like if you were like, you're building your streaming community at the moment.
Yeah.
If your community started putting you in a box, more or less, of like, this is what audiovisual streams are, would you try to fight that? Would you embrace it? Would you ignore it? Like, how would you
Good question.
react to that?
Yeah. You know, if I think it's a positive thing, I'm definitely willing to incorporate it into my identity. But I definitely like my identity, and I like me to be me. You know. But at the same time, I'm not going to change myself just to prove a point. You know what I mean? Like, if someone says this is who he is, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, well I'll show you. I mean, maybe to a degree, yes, but at the same time, I'm not going to completely change the way I do things just to, you know, shake something. I was saying before, I don't want to get pigeonholed as just a marbles. Like, I want to continue to stream other things.
Right.
This season in particular, I'm going hard, so there's not a lot of time to stream other things. But moving forward, I want to always, you know, play games and stuff on stream and have fun. And that's what it's all about, I think, is, you know, just having a good time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so getting, you know, labeled, it's not the worst thing. I definitely like would embrace it to a degree, you know, and use that to my advantage. But at the same time, if it's a negative thing, you know, I might try to shake that, or, you know, might try to you know, defend myself to be like, well, no, it's not actually like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say unless you're faced with that situation.
Yeah, kind of
honestly.
more case by case basis.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Well, any other questions you had for me in that kind of avenue?
In that avenue, do I have something like that? None of my questions really relate to that, but I have some good ones.
All right,
I
well, if you've
think.
got something good, go for it.
What's the most unusual thing in real life? Like, the most unusual thing that you've ever witnessed, where you're there and you're like, this is not right. It doesn't not necessarily mean negative.
Right.
Just
doesn't fit in my
totally
model
like
of the world.
Just doesn't, like, this doesn't happen, you know. And I just saw this happen.
So you're looking for more like a personally first-hand experience rather than learning something.
Yeah, it could be anything. It could be a learning experience. It could be just a witnessed experience.
Yeah, I think
just the most, like, what just happened? Did that really just happen? Does this happen?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure everybody's got one of those experiences in their life.
Yeah, I think for me, it hasn't been so much any one instance, but just little things that you notice throughout your life, and you kind of remember each one, and it just kind of builds a larger and larger memory of all the little things. And then it gets to a point where you kind of like, why are so many of these little things happening in the same way? It gives you a creepy feeling like you're being pushed by an unseen force. When
I felt that before.
Yeah, like, and it's never like this is the moment it happened. It's more like it just keeps happening. Just these little things keep happening every time, and every time it's always in the same direction.
Yeah,
and it grows in weirdness. Like it's weird the first time, but you don't really care because it's just one time. And then it happens again. You're like, well, that was weird. Then it happens the third time. You're like, okay, this is getting weird, right? Like, it just gets weirder and weirder every time it happens, kind of a thing. So I guess just for me, it's those little background pushes in your life.
I'm worried that your guys' next federal election is going to be exactly like that. Where it's Trump gets back in, and then you guys are like, what?
Yeah, well,
but I think the DNC chose the wrong guy. So.
Yeah.
It's on them. They chose the wrong person last time. They chose the wrong person again.
They've successfully found the only two people in the world that could actually lose, right? Like, how did they do that? That's an achievement in its own right. Like,
they should just pick a celebrity because it's obvious that's what wins. That's how Trump got in. He's a celebrity.
Yeah.
All they got to do is be like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you want to be president?
Hey, there you
go. And he would win by a landslide.
He probably would.
Absolutely. It's not even close. Any celebrity is going to.
Yeah,
it's just the way it goes. That's our leader too, Justin Trudeau. That's how he won.
He's celebrity, yeah.
He kind of won. He kind of won because, you know, he's progressive in this modern world and stuff, and he vowed to legalize weed, which he did. cannabis. So good on him for that. But he essentially won because he's this young, good-looking son of a famous prime minister. And that was the edge he needed. The name Trudeau was already a household name before he ever thought about politics. So it's kind of sad, but that's just the way it goes.
And I think it's a bit of a comment on politicians in today's world. In my opinion, I think a lot of politicians, unfortunately, are they try to appease the public, or rather, like, secure their reelection so much. Like, it's such a priority in their lives that they actually become cowards. Like, they're afraid to literally do anything because it might jeopardize their reelectability. And they won't say anything, and they won't stand up for anything.
Just that,
and they'll just...
Not just that, but their corporate synergy, the people that pay for their campaigns, they can't offend any of those people. Not only that, they have to, they're obligated to support them through office as well, which is really, that's the biggest broken part of the system, is lobbyists.
That's the oligarchy,
Right? It's just like money gets what you want, no matter what. And unfortunately, that's bled itself into politics, and no country's safe from that. Really, there's no perfect society that's like, oh no. And before you guys elected Trump, I hate the guy personally. I don't support him in any way, but I understand that when one of the things he was platforming on when he was running was, look, everybody's been bought by these corporations and been backed by billions of dollars. I'm on my own buck, so I do what I want, right? And I really respected that about him. What he's done with
it's better, but it's not that much better.
Crazy, but it's better. That's the thing. That's the thing. He's not being controlled. He's on his own control. It's too bad he's a crackpot. But and amongst other things, he's fucking crazy.
So
especially this last week, it's like I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it.
It's like it will only get worse. I hate to tell you, it will only get worse.
He's doing all the opposite things he should be doing. It's just like, oh my god. Oh, what is it? You watching streams?
So,
I selected it, saying I was interested.
I can hear.
So it's a little background. Sorry about that.
That's all good.
So going back, kind of into that objectionable motif. The question I have phrased is not appropriate for things you've already divulged. So I'll read the question as I have it phrased, and then I'll rephrase it for your benefit. So the question is, which artist do you hate? Which is obviously a loaded question and certainly the wrong thing to ask. But let's rephrase the question to be a bit more fair. What artistic expressions, if any, have you seen that just make you go, that's not right, or that isn't art, or even that's the wrong way to do that?
The last 30 years of pop music. I mean, I don't know what happened to pop music. It used to be so good. It used to be a thing. It was awesome. And it's just all falling apart. Like I said, it's just all just turned into formula. Anything that like someone's doing as a formula to create art. I mean, art is just creativity, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether it's bad or good. If it came out of your mind, and it could be influenced by other people. Everything is influenced by other people. No one just picks stuff out of thin air. Everybody is influenced by a range of things, and like I was saying earlier, all your experience leads you to who you are, and if you draw from that, you can really, that's where a lot of creativity comes from. But when people aren't being creative and passing it on as such, and just pretty much doing the same thing over and over again, and it was never even their idea to begin with, it was just the same thing someone else did that was successful, and it can be actually like diluted through like 5 stages of that, this person did that, and then that person did that, and they all just fucking copied the next guy, and it never evolved. It just stayed the same gem. That's what I think happened to pop music, essentially. And there's a lot of visual arts that's happened too. It's film has suffered from that as well. I think we're actually in a big funk with that, with film. There's still the odd creative gem that comes out. Yeah, there's some gems that come out still, but it's few and far between comparatively to history. I mean, filmmaking methods and cinematography have come a long way, and you know, but as far as the creative minds behind the writing and vision and stuff, it's well, you know, look in the theaters. We got more sequels than we got originals, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even close. It's like 90 to 10%. It's bad.
And you know, part of that's attributed to the ease that those advancements have made movie production, right? So
yeah,
and it's something I actually watched Corridor Digital did a video on not too long ago. Is that like it hasn't been for very long that a single person could make a movie.
Yeah.
Like there are cameras that a human being can carry, and there's audio someone can capture live without horrific background static and wind and everything in it. And there's software editing a single person can use to edit the foot. Like it's a unique time where even a single person could make a high production video.
Well, there was that one guy, I forget his name, but he made a movie all on his iPhone, and it won like film festival awards and stuff.
Yeah.
And he just made it on his iPhone.
And so you have these giant studios that have the same ease, and so they're instead of taking that ease to allow you to do more complicated and original things, they're taking that ease to make more things, which, you know, financially makes sense. But
I get the studio's point, and you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If people pay for it, don't change it, right? Don't take the risk. But you know what? We need the risk. Art needs the risk. Creativity needs the risk, because it's gonna affect things down the road. You know, we need more creative ideas, so we can get more creative ideas down the road. It's gonna be hard to draw from creativity when it's all the same shit that you're influenced by and there's no diversity. You know, what's the saying? There's a saying that all books and movies are just the same recycled 5 or 6 stories through time.
Yeah, the
like
Shakespearean
when you get down to the root, of the stories, we're just keep on repeating the same damn story.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
I'm pretty sure it goes back to Shakespearean lore in that, you know, Shakespeare
it probably goes back before that, before writing.
He had like the 8 core narratives of how a story could progress, and you could argue that any story written can be boiled down to one of those, you know, core narratives.
Yeah, and pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, but I think that also, for me anyway, gives a little hope. Looking for, because when you do have those deserts of creativity, that just means that oasis is going to be that more amazing when it springs up, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're due for a creative renaissance. I think it's a bad time for creativity right now. I mean, there's definitely mediums that are pushing it, but it's few and far between. I mean, visual art definitely has. There's very few forms of visual art that are pushing the boundaries. You know, that's why street art's so famous right now. It's like one of the only original arts. it's bad. Like even it's really bad. There's not a lot of creativity going on in art, visual arts. I mean, pretty much people just pick a style. And I think art school actually has everything to do with that. I didn't attend art school. I have friends who have, and it did not make any of them a better artist. It does nothing to stoke your creativity. Right. It turned most of them into production artists, where they just essentially copy paste, right? You know, just do the same damn thing with the same damn technique and never try anything new.
Right.
And why not? Because people buy it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fine. You got to make a career, but at the same time, you got to like kind of jump outside your box and be like, oh, let's try something new. And whether people don't like it or not, you shouldn't worry about that when you're trying to create, right? You should just do what you feel. And a lot of the time, people will like it if it comes from you.
Right.
And it's your own.
There's an audience out there.
You put your own emotion into it. It's weird because you can convey your emotions through physical art. You know, and I don't mean drawing a smiley face. I just the way like some of the line work goes and stuff like that, it can really convey your emotions. And when you do that, when you create like that, it really comes through and people like it, and they don't even understand why they like it, but you're putting your emotion into it, and that emotion's coming through to them, and you know, that's pretty much, yeah, what art is if something that you experience that can evict any emotion in you, if it can evict any good, bad, doesn't matter. If it can evict any emotion in you, it's totally art.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah.
Well, to
That
kind
being
of
said, I've seen some weird things like a dot on a piece of paper selling for $1 million or whatever.
Hey.
You know, like
but
some weird
if
things
it's
out there, but
proper commentary or reflection on the current state of
or
things,
like a jar of peanut butter on a Twitch stream that
hey,
you know, does better than me and you combined.
Hey,
you never know.
But to an
that
extent,
thing always blows my mind.
That
is that art?
It does require
it's original.
That's that analysis and manipulation of the current state of things, right? So the way society's structured, the way those avenues of art are structured, something like that, really, it's a rebellion against it. And you know, rebellions can be pretty loud, even if it doesn't make sense or doesn't seem like it works, right?
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I'm on board with that too.
So kind of putting that positive spin on things to wrap it up here, so we don't end on the most drudgy of notes. Your artistic endeavors are beyond streaming.
Yeah.
So you've got a music festival. You said you've been working on several years now.
Yeah, I've this would have been my 15th year working with Shambhala Music Festival, and they started as a small little kind of bush party, and evolved into the world stage. It's now considered one of the big 5 or 10 or whatever. It's one of the big electronic festivals, most known anyways.
Fantastic.
And yeah, I started there as a volunteer a very long time ago, and just painting cartoons on planks of wood and cutting them out.
Hey, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, it evolved over the years, you know, and then I became an OG or whatever, you know, like I was around a long time, and it's evolved into now I manage a stage, and I'm also an art director for said stage. And my particular stage I work for, there's 6 stages at this festival, and we've won awards for best stage in the world. Music festival.
Congratulations.
Quite an honor. I don't have the award. The company has the award at their headquarters.
Right. But we know who was involved.
My director, like, so I'm right for my stage. There's about 120 of us or so. And my director, he's the mastermind. He's the visionary. He's the one of the whole festival. He's the OG. He started the festival. He's the only, you know, one there besides the owner who started it, and he was the creative direction really going forward, and he's influenced me a ton, and he's my mentor. I got into graphic design through him too. Just, you know, he was like, we need merch, you know, so like 10 or 12 years ago, and so he taught me Illustrator kind of thing, you know, and then I went from there. Now I've far surpassed him. I kind of made a career out of it, but yeah.
So how does that play in your creative expression, since we were talking about the modern world needing more creativity? How do you see that as your outlet?
Graphic design or the music festival?
Just what you're able to do, yeah.
Rephrase that. I kind of don't understand the question.
In a world that you see needing more creativity,
yeah,
how are you supplying that creativity yourself?
Oh, well, with the music festival, my goal is to I have a couple different like things that I, as an art director, that I try to achieve.
Okay.
Try to do things that no one's ever done, right? Like,
it's always a good step.
Don't copy paste. This is what almost every this is why we win awards. This is like what every festival does. We're in a lucky position, however, though. It's an owned piece of land, and we keep on building on it year after year. So that's a huge advantage, where we don't have to start from scratch every year.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, we try to do things that no one else has ever done. I took that influence from my director, Richie Rich. He's such a genius. He's got such great visions, and he always tells me too. He's like, we're like 10% at my vision. I'm like, what? Like, this is mind blowing, right? Like, it's already this thing that no one in the world has what we have. And also, my second goal is I try to melt minds, because it's an electronic music festival, and there's obviously a lot of people doing a lot of psychedelic drugs and stuff. So I try to play into that.
That's always good. Do you have any
Yeah.
like specific examples of something creative you did, like an image you created or a moment you had in a concert or anything like that?
Well, I do mostly stage design now, right? So it's like uh, an image I did. I mean, I've done murals before that are, you know, I think are some better than others, but some are pretty just like whoa, and it can really, I hope. I love abstract art, right? Like,
Yeah.
if I could just paint something for fun, it'd be abstract. It's just weird shit because that's where it's all creative, right? You're just like, oh, this shape there, that doesn't work, but yes, it does. You know what I mean? Like these colors don't go together, but oh, yes, they do, right? Like, why do you have to think like that? Why does it have to, why does it have to work like that? It doesn't, and that's abstract art, really. It's just really just as widely as you can get and just have fun with it. But I don't know. I think the stage I work on as a whole, yeah, it really we try to convey positive emotion and stuff like that, and it's really structured like that. It wasn't my vision to do it like that, but I totally am on board with it now. It's the only stage in the world. It's like a 360. It's like a circle around the middle stage, so the whole crowd's around the center.
Yeah.
And the result of this is energy. Now, when you get up on that stage, and you got like 10,000 people or whatever all around you, all staring at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all happy as hell. This is like they live for this, and there's so much positive energy. You actually feel it on stage. Your hair will stand up on your arms. You feel electric, and you'll feel happy. You can't stop smiling. And you know what that is? That's a transference of positive energy. Like a lot of people are focusing their positive energy on you, and it translates. And that's like the most amazing thing that I've been a part of, that like I've helped create. You know what I mean? Like I can't even really describe it. It's literally like
something
what
you have
keeps
to
me going
experience
there.
for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's literally what keeps me going there, and just like strives me to just like go to the next step. And it's so much good emotion. It's I don't know, it's electric. That's the only thing I could say. It actually literally makes, like, it's got static electricity, and it makes your hair stand up. It's crazy.
It is.
It is, yeah.
Well, I think that's a great moment to end our lovely conversation on.
Sure.
So thank you for being here for this
thanks for having
episode
me,
of
Sean.
Losing Our Marbles, a Talk for Two.
Yeah.
You have something to promote, I hear, before we go.
I do. I kind of briefly mentioned it at the beginning. Shameless promotion. Desluck13 and myself, fantastic map maker, as you all know.
For sure.
Yeah, he's doing his first tournament with me. It's a dual tournament. It's really well. It's called the Fairly Odd Tournament. He's got crazy. He's been doing these Fairly Odd GPs. He does like negative points and stuff like that.
Wow.
Where it's like first he'll get this many points, and second he'll get like -10, and then like it's crazy.
Awesome.
And it's gonna be a lot of fun. He loves the trolley factor, and yeah, I do too. I got 2 other tournaments coming up this season 2, and they're all gonna be very, very unique point systems. There's nothing like them. But yeah, this first one is the Saturday, so a week from today, 8 p.m. Eastern on the 13th. Yeah, and that'll be at mine and Desluck's, and that should be a lot of fun. Like a lot of, if you guys remember, some of you might remember my last tournament, and that was a crank tournament with Nefer. That was fun too.
Yeah.
But that was pure crank. I mean, there wasn't a lot of time for
when grinders get together.
Yeah, it was crazy too, because I had some top grinders, whisper me and be like, "Dude, this is insane. We can't keep up with this," because we were staggered, because we were just cranking.
Yeah.
And it was like every 20 seconds you had to get into a race kind of thing. It was a lot of fun, but this one will be nothing like that. This is very structured. We have planned maps and all that, and it's a trolley good time.
All right. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. Hope to see everyone there.
Yeah. And actually, hey, I got a question for you. When's the next Tilted tournament? You know?
Next
Tilted
tournament.
I know you're a big part of these.
That's.
You're the Tilt champ. I know that from last time.
I'm privy to some information not yet public.
Okay.
I will say this: there will be 3 tournaments this season. And,
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I last season, what I did is I participated in every way I could. I competed. I spent one as a purely viewer, just dropping everywhere I could, having fun talking, watching the broadcast from Pixels, and then the third one I was behind the scenes working with everybody.
nice.
And
Always good to have those help.
I think, yeah. I think this season I want to do the same. I think I want to compete in one. I want to, participate as a viewer, and I want to work, with the team on one again. I think that's perfect number for me, 3.
All right. Yeah, there'll be some Saturdays, there'll be some Wednesdays, or Sundays and Wednesdays, excuse me. And they'll probably be early in the morning so they don't overlap existing tournaments and other functions. So
Yeah.
more of information will come on
It's
that.
a lot of fun.
But thank you all for watching. We will continue with our chat Q&A forum section at the end of this. But for the YouTube video, that is all we have. Hope to see you next Saturday and every Saturday after for further episodes of A Talk for Two.